So is this the East Quad? So fáilte roimh go léir is iontach an rud go bhfuil mar an seo inniu san áit all in sin agus múla buchas the TUD. So yeah, thanks very much. It's great to have everyone here today, and thanks to TUD for having us. I'm Ciarán Murray from Dublin Community Television, and I'm going to host this session. And this session is about membership, and it's about membership and ownership. And Dublin Community Television is a cooperative. It's a not-for-profit democratic cooperative. And that's quite an unusual beast, because in television in Ireland you essentially have RTE and TG Ceathair and Virgin, and they are the big beasts in television in Ireland. And the other licensed one is Dublin Community Television. So we do hold quite a special place holding that television licence. And while it is a Dublin licence, we do work very closely with our colleagues in Cork and Belfast, and we do try to understand it as an all-island initiative. So in looking at membership, we felt that it was important to look kind of broader about what was going on. So on the panel today, I have a few people who are going to talk about that, I hope. So I have Des Derwin here from Dublin Community Television, and Des has been in charge of membership for a long time, so Des will talk about what we do on Dublin Community Television. I have Dan Lambert, who's the CEO of Bohemians Football Club, and Tommy Hines, who's the Community Director. And it's great to have Bose here, and we're kind of inspired by Bose, and we're kind of jealous of Bose, how they've managed to build something kind of very special with their community, with their membership. And it's a real credit to Bose, and I'm really delighted to have them here today. I have Karina here as well. Karina Mambo from the African Solidarity Centre. And we've done quite a bit of work with Dublin Community Television, with the African Centre, with different groups there. And we're still kind of in the process of building that relationship. But I think DCTV from its outset has been very strong on being an organisation who at its core is integration, and anti-racism is something, and as an organisation that's set up to do diversity, it's something that we try to do in everything that we mean. So it's really great that Karina is here, otherwise it would just be a panel of middle-aged men. Except for Dan. Except for Dan, who's only about 22. Okay, so that's enough from me. So maybe I'll go over to Bose first, because we're kind of in their locality.
I think that clicker thing is behind you, is it?
And that clicker thing.
Someone had it.
Is that it?
Down is up, is that the way you're saying?
Down is forward, yeah.
You go back to, I'll do it here.
At the start, I think, there.
So what I'll do is I'll just, it's a short enough presentation here. It's a much longer presentation overall. That was for a different kind of day, but I think there's bits of it here that are applicable. And then when we're chatting later on, Tommy's the community director, but this will just give you an idea of kind of how we got to where we are. I'll just play a short video to start. Is there sound on this now?
Yeah.
just think, like, given the news this morning, that what a lot of what we do, and we're going to talk about is our community work, that like Israel is going to fail to recognise UNRWA is just outrageous. And how is a tiny football club, if the windows that are behind you there with the lovely view to the mountains were the other side, you'd see Bohemians. And a lot of what we do is very local, but it can also be very international. So we shot that video last year. One of the children in that video is dead. They've been murdered by Israel. And I suppose we recognise, and a lot of what we talk about is it's recognising that we're a fan member-owned organisation, and that, you know, people in Dublin, people in this area, they have feelings and that they care about lots of different things. One of them is football and the team doing well, obviously, but some of them they're not happy with things, whether that's what's happening in Palestine, whether that's the growing homelessness numbers, whether that's how migrants are treated when they arrive to Ireland. And the football club can play a role in those things. And by engaging in this type of work, we've seen our membership grow nearly tenfold. And for a while, a lot of people maybe said, oh, well, there's not cause and effect there, but there is, because we've surveyed the membership, and about 45% of the members give a reason, a very strong either 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, that the values of the club are a reason for them becoming a member. So it actually creates a stronger organisation for Bohemians. So this was given to a different group, as I said, and I'll just try and run through it quite quickly. I'm just going to focus on 2 parts of it. So that's where we are. If there was a window here, it wouldn't look a whole lot. We'd basically see us, we're right behind you. So we've existed in Dalymount there since 1901. The club set up in 1890, but it was mentioned about your competitors in DCTV being privately owned. Sadly for the League of Ireland, in my view, although it's a legitimate model, the private ownership model, it's just ourselves and Sligo left in the Premier Division who are fan-owned football clubs. So lots of billionaires involved now, lots of investment companies, multi-club models, all of these things that are literally just the commercialisation of football, the privatisation of football has happened, very kind of starkly in the Premier League, but we're not immune to it. So some examples, and there's nothing wrong with these models, I'm not saying they're wrong, they're just not what we are. The Comer family, developers, billionaire developers, they bought Galway United. Drogheda United recently sold to an investment company based in Canada who also own Walsall. Shamrock Rovers were a hybrid model where you have Dennis Desmond involved. So you have lots of private owners, some of them very wealthy. Waterford are owned by the owner of Fleetwood Town in the UK. So the landscape has changed a lot. What's amazing, and we're very proud of it, Bo, is that we've stayed in this place, but also we've been a fan-owned football club for 135 years. So one of the oldest fan-owned organisations in the world in terms of football clubs. But it hasn't, the founders of the club set it up as an active citizenship model, but it didn't always serve us very well. So I'm going to just touch on 2 bits. This part here, the club's collapse, and how we went, I suppose, from volunteers, which Tommy was absolutely instrumental in, to having staff here, and Lee Grace is over here who arrived in with Tommy, who's recently just joined Bohemians as a staff member. So football, you can have success and failure. So we had a lot of success about 15 years ago. On the pitch, a bit more now, 17 years ago. We won a double, very successful football team. But a couple of years later, the club was basically bankrupt. So we had a massive debt, low crowds, and we had to terminate all our players' contracts. So if you were reading about Bowes in 2011, you were reading something like this. We were in the broadsheets. We were normally in the tabloid papers then for football, but in the broadsheets because we were going out of business, basically. I put in there I joined the board. There was no achievement in joining the board then. Everyone else was trying to get away from it. And it was important if you joined the board to have no assets. So I lived in my mum's house, so no one could take anything you owned. I didn't own anything. But yeah, we were balance sheet insolvent as a football club, and I think there was a good chance that we'd go out of existence at that time. And this is what our crowds would have been like. So they were playing St. Pat's here, Dublin Derby, and there's maybe 1,500 people in the stadium. We would give out a lot of free tickets to schools and things to try and get people to come. And pretty bleak time. So this is how we were. We'd really bad perception of the club, really low attendances, and we had to reduce our budget by a big amount. The reason I know that this talk isn't about football, the reason I put that slide in is that we got here by focusing on one thing: a group of men trying to win a football game. That's what got us there. So all the kind of eggs were put into the basket. We'll sign very good players and they'll win us things, but it's a bit of a hollow proposition. Because there's 10 teams, one will win something every year. And even when we were really successful, our crowds weren't particularly big. So there's an excitement to going to see a team win something. But I think it has to be balanced with a bit of human emotion and a core kind of pride in a club or an organisation. And if you can match the two, that's where you want to be. But I think one without the other actually doesn't work. So I'll just skip these two and show you a picture. That was last year, where we played St. Pat's. Biggest attendance at a League of Ireland game in, I think, 80 years, it's the 1940s. But the record attendance at a League of Ireland game, cup final, we brought, and it's not something we really say publicly, it's not about who brought more fans, but we brought quite a lot more fans than Pat's, which was very interesting for us because the last time we'd been in a cup final before that was 2009. We brought 6,000. We brought about 28,000 to this. We haven't won anything in the intervening period, so it's kind of hard to say that that growth was based on winning anything, because we didn't win anything. But what we did change was what we presented publicly, and how we acted and how we behaved as a football club off the pitch. Every player who signs for Bohs wants to win the game, of course he does, whether that's a men's team, women's team, a youth team. But we changed what we do off the pitch, and that was work that Tommy was really led on, and Chris Bryan, our former president, and now has grown massively. So I'm going to skip through a few of these and just show you. So basically, the club is set up as a volunteer organisation for the most part. I'm now a paid employee, but our board of directors are volunteers. They're not paid for their work, and they can't be under the rules of the club. So Tommy puts in enormous hours and isn't paid to do it, and doesn't want to be paid to do it. You know, that's the system. And I'm just going to show you kind of, these are some people, and this isn't exhaustive at all, but just kind of show, I suppose, how we went from where we were to today, and the idea that a big percentage of our membership are really proud of the club. So we had fans and members of the club who, like anyone in life, they've got different passions. So Tommy has done a huge amount of work in Mountjoy Prison. I'm sure he'll speak about that in a while. James was a guy who worked for NCBI, and he came to us and said he'd like to do audio described commentary. We're the first club to do it in Ireland for people with sight loss. With different people around the club, I won't read them all out, but there was people who had different passions. So this fan, Mark, he's really big LGBTQ+. That's something that he's passionate about. There was a guy here, Brano, and he knew a lot about the direct provision system around 2014. I remember him talking to me about it. I didn't know anything about it, and he was outraged at direct provision. And lots of other people. Sean here, who now works for us as our head of climate. So these are fans and members of the club who are passionate about things that were, either challenging problems in society or wanting to improve things. And what we began to do was to work with these people, and we didn't have any money at the time, but we began to basically just lend the clubs, whether it was the facility, the name, or the club, to begin to support these people in what they were doing, essentially. And how that looked, and I just want to show you two, our work with the LGBTQ plus community, but also our work with migrants, and just show how it happened very organically, and the types of things that the club does today, leading to positions where today, in the last 2 years, for the first time, we have funded projects for community work. Before then, it was very much just volunteers. So in 2015, we supported the marriage equality referendum. There was somebody who was on the board of the club at the time who was very passionate about this and felt that this was something the club should support from a human rights point of view and not a political thing. The club did that, and then this kind of series of things happened. So I'll just kind of show you them in pictures. So this is us in 2015, only sports organisation in Ireland that supports the marriage equality referendum. And shortly after that, at the start of the 2016 season, a group of gay fans, bohemians, put out this flag. So these were people who'd been going for years. And football is not a good, men's football, I should premise that with, is a homophobic environment, undoubtedly. There's been 2 ever openly gay footballers on the planet in professional football. It's obscene. And so these people are kind of discriminated against massively, but it also extends, people think of the players, think of being a gay person at a football stadium, because there's a lot of homophobia within that environment as well. So these fans felt that they were comfortable doing this because the club had done something. But this didn't cost anything to do, and these were people who were already there already. And then it got a lot of media attention. It's still the only LGBT supporters group in League of Ireland football. Following that group asked would the club fly the pride flag at games. We said we would, and we've flown at every game since. Then some of the fans were invited to go to a conference in Europe to meet with other football supporters who were trying to improve the kind of atmosphere at games. After that, the group themselves, Gay Bohs, they set up a committee. We're the only professional football club in Ireland to attend Pride every year, and this was 2 years ago. Following from that, one of our commercial partners, Dublin Bus, they're really big on Pride. We worked with them and had a whole series of actions. One of them was that all our coaches received training from Shoutout around working with gay players, and a lot of other initiatives here. Some of our supporters put this piece of graffiti in Phibsbury. And then right now we have a programme that Lee does work on called Pride on the Pitch. was actually a thing yesterday, I think, a kind of launch piece, where we're bringing in young players from the gay and trans community who otherwise don't get involved in football. So really our organic process. It's not that someone sits down and decides, we should go and work with the LGBT community, which is sort of what happens with Pride now with some of the corporations who are involved, who wouldn't have actually got involved in a battle for improving people's rights until it was kind of the thing to do. And our example in terms of work that we do with migrants, which is very, very extensive, on the first slide we had a shirt with Refugees Welcome on the front. So these are from 2013, is the first one. So there's a group of fans, and I used to help them out at the time. We used to walk around Dublin and go into African shops and give in flyers to invite people to the stadium to see the African Cup of Nations. A really simple thing. And there was food and drinks there. And we'd host them. And it was actually around a few years before that, before I knew about it. So this is a guy who gave a quote in 2013, and he said he'd be running it for 4 years, doing this party each year. So we're just connecting the football club with a group of people who were into football, obviously, but weren't engaging with League of Ireland football. We then, through one guy who was aware of the rec provision, he started collecting money in the stadium to get a bus to go to a DP centre in Finglas at the time and bring people to Dalymount. So it was a kind of a one-off thing. When we had enough money, you might take 4 or 5 games to raise the €500. But we began to do that. But people at the club then became aware. I was one of those people who didn't know anything about the rec provision and became aware of a system that people felt wasn't a good system. We then began to work with Mural. So all this time the club has no resources. We began to work with the Irish Refugee Council, and we have a lot of kind of artworks around the ground that a local girl, Marty, she was like 16 at the time, she came and did a mural, a big Refugees Welcome mural. The fans began to react to this, seeing this as something that was worthwhile. This is our 125th anniversary, 2015, and in the stadium when we didn't have big crowds. So the fans are involved with something that they care about. We began then as a club to work with Massey and do more of these buses. There's Grano in the red top at the end who kind of organised a lot of this. And this is the first year we began then each Christmas raising money with the fan base to get toys for kids in direct provision. So this was where I was living at the time. These were gifts for the kids in the centre in Clondalkin. And what we did is we gave everyone a name, and we said, it's a nice connection if you get a kid's name. So they get a name and an age, and people went off into town and bought a gift. Some people are better at buying them than others. I remember one elderly guy, he bought like a handbag. It was for like a 6-year-old. So but people got great presents. And then this is a year after, in the dressing room of the club. We did it for every centre in Dublin. Last year we did every kid in Ireland, so we were in the RDS and raised over €100,000. So it's now a big connection between, and broader than the club's fan base, between the football club just as the vehicle to do this work. I think there might be a short. And then in 2020 we released this shirt, and we accompanied this with a political call, but again human rights rather than like party politics, around calling for an end to direct provision with Amnesty International. This was featured on like Euronews and The Guardian, BBC. A lot of accusations that this was using football for political means, which we rejected. We were sort of hoping the FAI might ban it, which would draw more of an eye on the rec provision, but they didn't. They weren't in the position to be in the news for any more bad reasons. And then what we've done increasingly is we released this shirt with Bob Marley on it, and it raises money for people in the rec provision for music and sports. Right through to today, where we have a programme that Lee works on as well. Do you go to that, Lee? Football Unites itself? Once. Yeah. So it's ran on Saturdays. We have 5 partner clubs, and we bring basically young kids in to join ourselves and other partner clubs. And 1 or 2 more. We've given this guy a scholarship. It's a guy Peacemore, money from the Bob Marley shirt. This guy's doing a music degree in BIM. And these are some of we now use the RDS, as I mentioned. The RDS give us the hall, and DHL deliver the presents for us around the country. So I'll just show you one short video. I think that's more or less me.
I suppose the club have embraced diversity, and people are welcome here from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different cultures. Since about 2016, we've been running buses from what are called in Ireland direct provision centres, where when migrants come to Ireland, they get directed from the airport, from the port, into these centres, and they kind of enter kind of a limbo land there. So we thought, why don't we just give these people 90 minutes every second week to go to a football match?
came in Sydney Asylum, and I've been here for 4 years. It hasn't been an easy road. No life in direct provision is very hard. Some have come here and friends. They need something to cheer about. So coming in and watching football, you know you meet different people. When you go home, it doesn't end there. You continue thinking about it for the whole week until the next night. I think as a club, they're just trying to integrate everyone in the community, trying to bring everyone in, regardless of who you are. I think that's a good move. It's really appreciated. To us, I think they're family. That's one thing that I can say. They're family.
So there was a much bigger presentation, as I said. We now have an FSR strategy. I won't go into all of that, but essentially, like the message from us would be, like we're a very, very old active citizenship membership. Like we're cooperative essentially. Although we've cooperative legislation in Ireland, it's a different story. But we found ourselves in a position with, and similar probably to DCTV in terms of big organisations. But the other clubs have moved away from this model. To a massive extent, as they have in world football. And they brought in private finance. Private finance doesn't like to stick its neck out, doesn't like to stand up for things, it likes to just insulate itself. Like, there's not a chance that other clubs are going to talk about Palestine, because the owners are generally wrapped up in large capital, and they see that as risky. But by us taking this approach, and that's true to the club's values in terms of we need to champion the issues that people face in the area to have a strong membership. And by us having really clear and strong values as an organisation, far more people have gotten involved with the club. Far more people have wanted to become a member. We have stronger commercial partners. The perception of the club, rightly so, is greatly improved from where it was. And this actually helps the football side as well, for people who are like, oh, well, I just care about the football, because we've got more members who pay in more money. So we've just become a bigger, healthier, better organisation. And we haven't changed, we haven't given up ownership, we've kept the same thing, but by having clear values, it's just made us a better and bigger organisation. It's made it a bit more difficult to manage day to day, because we've more staff and there's more going on. But I think for to have, like, and you mentioned at the start, this is about membership and the idea of maybe a cooperative model. I think you have to have strong and clear values for people to want to move away from the model where it's just transactional, where they pay to get something back, where they want to give back. They need to feel an emotional connection to it, and that's what's worked for us.
That's fantastic, Dan. Maybe can I just bring in? Can I just bring in Thomas Hines as well?
Yeah, well, there's very little to say after that. I should have went first, because I'm sort of the acorn to this mighty oak, that Daniel has built. But I started volunteering with Bohemians in about 2001, 2002. Stephen Kenny, actually, the former Ireland manager, the current Pats manager, was the manager of Bohemians at the time. I was working for the Paul Trust down the Tansy Night Shelter in Blessington Street with the children addicted to heroin. And I had previously worked in the States and doing a lot of street work. And it's a funny thing, these kids wouldn't go into a shop and buy a loaf of bread, they'd steal it. Because even though they'd have money in their pocket, they couldn't communicate really. They didn't know how to go in and say, please, can you serve me and stuff. So it's just the way they grew up. And so I got the idea then, I approached Stephen Kenny. I said, Stephen, can I bring some of these children, the major children, to Dalymount to see a match? Because I've done this in the States, and the idea is, one-on-one, you can't get anything out of them. There's 2,000 at the time, or 1,500 down says at a game. They're lost in there, so they can actually come, and this opens the door back into society for them. They're there cheering a game, and people at the game couldn't care less who's standing beside them. They're just watching the match, so they didn't feel intimidated in any way. And then, of course, some of them end up in prison, and I get a call, would you mind visiting someone? So I went into prison then to visit some of them. And then they told the others, this is the man from Bohemians, so then can you bring in the players? Well, I said, hold on, we can't start doing that yet. But what we did was, I don't know if you know the guy Richie Stadler from TV, you know him sometimes. Well, Richie's a friend of mine from football days, and I asked Richie would he mind coming in and talking with him. So that led then, we started doing some coaching. So we start coaching every week in Mountjoy, which still goes on today. Actually, Lee is involved in it. And what it did was, and the prison service came to me and said, could you make this like an official event through the prison service? Because what happened is D-Wing, C-Wing were enemies. Wouldn't talk to each other, couldn't mix on the same wing, whatever. But we brought them into the gym, said you're going to play a five-a-side. We had the jerseys in a bag, but the jerseys were all mixed. Richie Sadler did this. They all picked out a jersey, looking at you either play with him or you go back to your cell. So bit by bit, it broke down all barriers. And we realised they bump into each other in the hall saying, are you ready for the match next week? So then we had the Bohemian Foundation Cup, the Bohemian Community Cup. We started bringing in events because what I learned was the more you introduce, and it works with this too, people to the outside world, when they're in a situation that they're away from the outside world, when they eventually get into the outside world, they're more familiar with it. It even got to the stage that some people too actually held funeral services in there for exposed members. And the prisoners came and they were so respectful, like, you know what I mean? And it was a wonderful thing for the family to do because they were aware of the work we were doing. But also I noticed, and I'm from just up the road here, originally from Cabra, and I noticed the people in the prison are from the same areas from when I was growing up. Nothing has changed. Now, I lived in Los Angeles for 25 years. I came back and I thought things would be different. The same neighborhoods, the same people. So then what you do is, it's great going in and helping them prepare for the outside world, which is what we did, because we eventually did bring in players and outside people. The Lord Mayors were fantastic to us, presenting trophies and stuff, people giving talks. Tommy Tiernan joined the club and he put on, you know, his show on RTE. He actually reenacts that in Mountjoy Prison every so often for us. Now, it's not filmed, obviously, but it's a fantastic thing because they see it on TV and then they know what the outside world is like. I brought in a person to tell them about the Lewis. I know that sounds mad, but some of those people went into prison when they were young. They're coming out now after 20, 25 years. They don't know what the Lewis is. They don't know what an iPhone is hardly, you know, unless it's smuggled in. I'm not being funny, but they don't know the outside world. So that was the idea, introduce the outside world. And I know we were talking about direct provision, the same thing. You can't just say, there's open the door from direct provision, out you go. They wouldn't know where to go. So if you start bringing them to Dalymount, places like that, they get on a bus. It's introducing people to society. Now, I never started out to do all this. Now this here, I just started that part. Like, Daniel has the full credit and his team for taking it to the level it's at now. But what we discovered was, if you go to schools, maybe we can stop some of the kids from the neighbourhood, all North Dublin, which we're totally involved in, ending up in prison in the first place. So we got the players to go in and give talks. We got ex-professional footballers. We got different people. And even a simple thing like a diet. If kids go in and they hear what Keith Buckley, the captain of Bohemians, eats for breakfast, they'll eat that for breakfast. You know, instead of a bar of Cadbury's, they'll have porridge or something, because that's what Keith Buckley does. It's a simple thing, but that sets them on the road then, like, you know, it's some sort of a life that they can lead. Because what hurt me really was, as I said, I'm from Cabra originally. I met a kid there in Mountjoy, and I recognised the name. I said, where are you from? He told me the road he's from. I knew his grandfather, who was in Mountjoy. And that's what put the idea into my head. But you can't do this on your own, and all credit goes to Bohemian Football Club, because they were so behind every idea that came up. It doesn't seem like a lot now when you think of the world that we're living in now, but at the time it was new, and nobody else was doing anything like this. Because I did get backlash from people saying, oh, you're going in looking after prisoners, what about the kids in the schools? Well, the kids in the schools are getting looked after by their teachers and whatever, like, you know, there was very little being done for people getting out of prison. And this is what our aim was. So I don't know if you're aware of it, the park run every Saturday morning that's done around Dublin. We actually got them to build a new track in Mountjoy, and the prisoners do the park run in Mountjoy every Saturday morning. So when they get out, they can join their local communities. And the same, we have a foundation football team that's made up of ex-prisoners. We've played 5 times in Europe and won the competition 3 times. Like, we beat Southampton, Queen's Park Rangers and Kaiserslautern last year on the road to the final. So, like, it's fantastic. And you see guys that were prisoners coming out, putting on the Bohemians jersey, but when they win it, the Irish flag goes up, they play the national anthem. These guys, a million tears now, actually crying. They're so proud. Like, you know, it's only 12, 14 months since they were in prison, and here they are in their mind representing Ireland and their family. So, like, we weren't trained in anything except a bit of kindness. You know what I mean? Put in a bit of effort. And as Daniel said, by the way, I'm owed so much expenses. He doesn't want the money to do that line area. Unbelievable. But no, seriously, but at the time, as Daniel said, the club had no money, no funding, so it was all volunteers. And for all the programs that we do now, you can't get volunteers because people have jobs, they've lives, they can't take days off work. Whereas we were lucky at the time that myself, Chris, another chap, Stephen Burke, were free during the day. And we could volunteer, because you go into prison during the day, you go to schools during the day. So without, like, Dan doing what he does and raising the funding and getting funding from Europe, we couldn't have the staff to do it, because you can't ask people all the time. People sort of, oh, here he is again, he closed the door, what's he want from me this time? So so what we're doing now, it is based on that. But I myself, when I started going into schools, and like, I remember there's one chap, sorry, I'll just finish on this, I nearly said his name, but he was, remember the travelling community, he lived in Dunsink Lane, and he signed for Bohemians, and we helped him get his leaving cert. He went to a school in Finglas, I think it might have been St. Kevin's, I'm not sure, and we brought him back to do a presentation in the school. The teachers were in tears. They couldn't believe that he was a professional footballer, had done his leaving cert, like, you know, through the club. And as I said, that impact that has on the guys in the classroom, it's you can't measure it. You just can't measure it. Now, when I started doing this, I never thought I'd actually be looking at this presentation. Do we really do all that? You know, because but it's fantastic. And as I said, it's all funded. A lot of the members, like the members' money, that the gate money goes to the playing staff. All this is actually funded properly. And so it's not taking away from the football. A lot of people think we should spend more money on the team, but this money is actually a separate thing, and it's actually used for what it's supposed to be used for. It goes back into the community. Now, we have a great benefit from it. As Daniel said, when I was doing this, we had about 500 members. We've over 2,000 now. And it's not because we're playing great football, but it's because we care. And it gave, when you're doing this work, you realise people do care, and they want an avenue to go down. So we just opened the door for that avenue. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Tommy. I think it's a very inspiring story from Bohemians, and something we can all learn from, and something that I hope DCTV can learn from. There's so many similarities across what we try to do and what Bows are doing. But certainly, football shouldn't be all in the hands of the wealthy and the powerful, and media shouldn't be all in the hands of the wealthy and the powerful. So both having that co-op model is something that's core to what we do. I think a lot of what the lads are saying and showing us there, that in a way, Dublin Community Television is not really a media organisation. Firstly, it's a community development organisation, and the media is a tool for community development. I know that's a bit waffly, but generally you don't measure your success only by what you see on the park, and you can kind of feel that, and you can see the same, I think, with Dublin Community Television as well. Lots of the work we do is beneath the radar, and it's not only that final product. And if you can work with kids from all sorts of backgrounds, and they can work on a project for ages, and they feel really good about that, and that achievement means a lot to them, the output piece, the final piece, might be quite short, and it might not be the most glitzy television you've ever seen, but you can have that impact at community level, and that's kind of where you win eventually. Now, I do wish Bows every success on the park as well. Perhaps that's another story. So yeah, so to move from Bows, I'm delighted that Karina Mambo is with us today, and as I said, with the Africa Centre, we've done a lot of work kind of at the ground level. We've done a lot of work with LaSalle to try and bring it to a stage where we can do more with that. But I suppose it's great to have you here, and it's great to hear from you today.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone. I'm sorry to be late today because we were looking for the south side of the TU. So yeah, congratulations to Bohemians because they have done a lot to actually to help like the whole community overall through the mental well-being, because sport is something that help actually people to feel well overall. So Africa Center, I'm working with them as a program manager, and we do as well a lot of things through advocacy, education of the migrant overall, and to helping people to get the grid connection or the networking, despite their background. It's not because it's Africa Center, but it's open for everyone. So don't just feel like because it's Africa people you can't get involved with activities there. As our chairperson, actually, is a woman from Belgium, so it's really open for everyone. And it's the first organization that brings all the diaspora here in Ireland and overseas. So we are working a lot. It's 24 years now that Africa Solidarity Center exists. And we were proud like DCTV is connected with us. Like so in 8th of June, last 8th of June, like Brian was there for the events that we call like Empower Breaking Barriers. And he was there to cover the whole event. As he was just saying, when you walk a lot of the ground, when you show the pieces on the TV, it's quite short. People can't understand all the paperwork behind this to bring only 5 or 2 minutes on the TV, which is great. So we were proud for like DCTV is part of support of everything that we are doing. And we organize as well the sport. And myself, I play football. And then to help the migrants, especially the asylum seekers, people that were living in direct provision, we try to organize the match every Sunday to help them as well to get out of their everyday, their daily life. So it's important that sport, actually the football, because it's quite easy for the people to do the football than to do like maybe the basketball or the badminton because of the resources. It's much easier to have a pitch to play football than to do the other things. So we kind of organize those things. We were part like, I think 2 years ago or 3 years, Bohemians actually helped through Camp Foot. I don't know if you remember Camp Foot. We tried to organize a football game match.
Was it Cameroonian?
Cameroonian football, yeah. So we organized the football as well, and the Bohemians have a great support as well, because it's something that when we talk about inclusion, diversity, or integration, we have to bring something that everyone can feel into it. So it was a good support from Bohemians as well, and Africa Center is actually looking forward for some support, because it's always the sad part of the things that you have a lot of ideas, you have people to get connected, you plan to do things that can help the whole communities, but there is no funding sometimes. As to have a volunteering people that you can't pay them, they feel like they can't leave the job to come and just helping people, as you just say. So it's quite difficult on the ground. So you have to feel like it's kind of mission that you have inside you than to helping the others to bring something or to help people to move forward every day, or to helping them to come out of their comfort zone or to release a little bit their stress. So next year we're trying as well we are working for myself actually, I'm working forward to organize a lot of activities through the sport as well. And if Bohemians or everyone on, I know DCTV will be there to support it, to cover the event. If you can join our forces as well to maybe give the opportunity to people that are living in the refugee, because at the moment the level of the people living there is really high, and because of the housing, the crisis of the house, they are kind of lost. They don't even know where to go. And I think through activities like a sport, maybe even this football or anything that may help them, the kids' activities as well, we can helping them to maybe feel okay at some stage. And in terms of the kids' activities, we kind of organize as well the family fun days that can bring as well families like women and the kids to do some kind of activities, like maybe a little race, or just to pump in. There's a lot of activities that we're trying to organize and bring them the tradition even from Africa. There's a kind of playing that we used to do on the ground with that specially things. We think that this kind of diversity can help people to bring to give I don't know how to put the proper term, like when you have kind of culture, you can't and share your culture to the other people. It's helping you to bring people in the table, and then we feel like we are all the same. And this is how actually we do the anti-racism training as well, or to address kind of like white superiority or xenophobia, things like that. Because when you have a pot of fruits here, there is no point to say that this is orange or apple or mango or kiwi. It's just the fruit. So we have to find the proper word to say to the people that we are all human beings. We are all fight for the same reason. We all have the same breath. So there's no way to see the people like you are nothing because of the color of your skin. So there's a lot of activities that actually Africa Solidarity Center actually does on the ground, and this will be more helpful if through the DCTV as well, because it's a major community development. If you can do a lot of activity and cover it properly and show it to the worldwide, I'm sure that in the next 2 or 3, 5 years, something great can come out, because sometimes people hear things, but when they can see, the impact is not the same. So it's better as well to cover everything, to show the pieces. Why not even to have some program with the Direct Provision Center like directly, or anything? Like I said, I have a journalism skills, because I'm a journalist for over 25 years now. So it's something that even me, I can maybe come into or create some kind of podcast or whatever to just show what is going on the ground. I'm sure that even to raise some kind of funding to helping us as well, it will be great, because working is fine, but sometimes the donors just fund what they are seeing. If you don't show up something like concretely, they won't support us. So it's just the kind of things that we can manage and do together at this stage.
Okay, Karina, thanks very much. Again, I think that's a great piece, and it's a challenge to community television for us to show people of African origin in a positive light, to show a lot of the good stuff, because if you can't see that, you can't understand it, and we can't build it as part of our community and part of our society. So I want to go on now to my colleague Des Derwin. Des has been a long time with Dublin Community Television, like myself, and Des looks after the membership. So I have a short piece from Des about that. Short piece.
Yes.
And then we'll just leave a little bit of time for a couple of questions and answers. Just trying to watch the time there. So Des Derwin.
I'm seeing connections all over this morning. My friend who works here in the university, Eddie Conlon, is a mad fan of Bose and has been for years, and I think he's been involved in the administration or helping out along the way. Dublin Community Television are in a period of revival and renewal at the moment, and not everybody may be aware how much we are out there, because we're a bit hidden away at Virgin 802. Like 802, it's a big number. I only remember it from Luxembourg 208. It's the opposite, showing our age. But we are now on the internet, which really puts us out there. And I think that's a huge step up. So if you go onto our website, dctv.ie, and press on Watch Live, and there we are. And that means that not only are we getting out there, but we're providing this facility, this platform for communities, for alternative media. And like another connection I saw is that Bose had the collapse, financial collapse, as they called it, in 2008. We had ours in 2013. So we spent the best part of a decade getting back, and we are back. We are back with a bang. And we are able to not just broadcast and transmit and get content, but to reach out to community
groups, community organisations. Now, community is not just geographical areas, not just the people that live in Fatima mansions or did live in Fatima mansions. It's not just that. It's community of interest, whether it's football, whether it's outhouse, or whether it's ecology. They're community of interest, and that's what we mean. That's what we mean by community. It also means that we have been able to apply for the social benefit scheme, which has produced three things. Funds, this is from CNM, funds, access to partnership communities, we have 8 of them, and also we got Brian Green. And if anyone has, as well as his predecessor, Dave Knox, 2 techies, and without techies we're lost, they have brought us up so that we can transmit and so that we can be a real facility. We have 8 partners in the social benefit scheme. RAID, who can't be here today, the African Centre, Outhouse, and National Women's Council. And I have 2 hats. I'm the Secretary of DCTV and DCTU, which is the Dublin Council of Trade Unions. Now, there might be a conflict of interest there, but there isn't really. And the trade unions are supposed to be all about membership. Now, that's a big problem. First of all, the membership is declining in proportion because of density. And secondly, there's a problem about the involvement and participation of members. I mean, I'm absolutely envious of what Bowes can do. In the trade union movement, and it's not just that we can't people get involved, there's a problem of control, how much democracy there is in the trade union movement and how much they are brought in to run things. So part of our revival is getting our membership back. Believe it or not, we have 258 members, but most of those are dormant because when we collapsed 10 years ago, we weren't going to run after people for their annual fee. We didn't really have anything to offer. We have now, and we're looking to revive members, get them back, and get new members. I didn't have the presence of mind to bring along application forms, but if there's anybody interested, our main, or has been, email is dctvbulletinboard.ie, or just go into the website, that'll lead you to it. As Kieran has explained, we try to be a democratic organisation, a cooperative, and as a member you can come along to the AGM, direct what our policy is there. You can propose programmes. For instance, in the trade union sphere, there's loads of content. A lot of it goes way back and some of it's on film. And this year we were able to put on May Day a trade union and labour special, which was a whole evening of all these old labour films, like documentaries of miners. There were miners in Ireland, actually. The Debenhams workers, history of the Dublin Council of Trade Unions. And we were able to do that, and we want to do that with community groups and alternative media and that, to provide this facility. So you can do that as well. You can come on the Committee of Management and you can have access to sound and vision. And we do say that membership is not an immediate channel into getting a grant from Sound and Vision. You do have to give some service and some input into DCTV, before that is just available to you. So we are getting back. We're getting there. I mean, my eyes were popping out of my head when we are shown the facilities here today, because in the good old days, Dublin Community Television did have a production side. We had a studio in Essex Street. All that went when the money went. It wasn't a governance issue, by the way, it was just the money ran out. So we're really more transmission belt now, but we're hoping to get back to some production. It's easier to do it now with iPhones and everything. So it's worth getting involved in, and do have a look in at us on the internet, and you'll see how we are there. As long as ourselves, Emma's here from Cork, ourselves, Cork and Belfast, that's it at the moment. So as I said, it's well worth following up the membership. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Des. So I think we're doing okay for time. We got maybe 10 minutes just to take some questions. I'll take that as a yes. So does anyone have any short questions from the floor?
I was curious, given the nature of the event today, if anyone would be able to talk about the Spark project from the point of view of Bowes and.
Honestly, no, not to give it any. No, so Sean, the Spark is a kind of climate, local kind of climate cooperative around like climate justice. But Sean is our head of climate and sustainability. It's not something I've any involvement with. I know Tommy doesn't.
No.
I know Lee is in the office, but and Lee's very recent. So it's a big project that the club are running, but it falls under sort of like Bowes in the community now is the term we use for it. But the kind of climate and sustainability side is sort of, although we're in the same office, it's quite separate. They've a lot of knowledge that I just simply don't have. I wouldn't give it any. I wouldn't be doing it credit. Lee, are you confident enough now? No. Yeah, there's 5 people working on Spark and Bowes, and yeah, I know broad terms, but I just don't have the expertise to speak about it. Tommy, do you? No.
Except the bicycles.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Another question around climate biodiversity environment for yourself and Des. Do you think there's an audience out there for those topics? I mean, like there's a lot of stuff going on with NGOs like Bloom and Common, for example. Do you find they give any sense of that? In terms of TV?
100%, which is a kind of absolutely phrase that you say now. 100%. We just recently, we will be talking about it later, the film about the daughter. I mean, that's just perfect stuff. Yeah. And there's masses. I said how much stuff there was from the Labour area, or from any community or campaign area, and from the ecology and green area. There's just masses of stuff. And, we can't wait to show it all. Yeah.
I think audience can be a tricky question, but for lots of big media outlets, once the audience falls below a certain advertising rating, they're just not interested at all. But it doesn't mean people aren't interested in seeing things, And in some ways, TG Cahir have done really well with that over the years. So yeah, I think it's also one of the pillars of what DCTV is about, to make sure that the environmental practices are part of how we operate, and also that we do have that output. I suppose there's a lot of really good stuff going on, and it's a challenge to us to try and see if we can capture that, and then how we can support the distribution of that once we do that.
Hi there. Sorry, this is the start of your presentation, Daniel, but I was just wondering, it sounds like you've just doing amazing work there in Bowes, but given the kind of current divisiveness that's out there in society and a lot of the kind of misinformation, I was just wondering, as a club, did you get much kind of pushback from the local community to some of the work that you're really progressive work that you are doing?
Yeah, we get quite a lot of that now on
sorry, I'm getting for it. How do you handle that?
Yeah, you get a lot of it on Twitter now. So obviously some of the Gavin Pepper types or whatever see us as the enemy, I suppose, which is a great thing overall actually, because given what they stand for and these councillors, and so unfortunately, obviously, the rise of, I'm assuming you're referring to the rise of some of these kind of right wing kind of groups. Yeah, so we see that in terms of around the stadium. There's never been anyone come to try and do anything official, but there'll be stickers put up and kind of things put around, and yeah, there's like all sorts of crazy disinformation stuff leveled at the club. But I think like we try to do is go even harder into what we're doing. Like we know it's really good stuff. We don't respond to any of that stuff officially or anything like that. Like one example, I have a picture there, but in the stadium, there's one section where all like the younger, like when I went, when I was say, you know, when I was young, I went with my dad and sat with my dad. But then when you're 13, 14, 15, there's an area where like mainly young males, but we've increasingly much stronger female membership. But they'll go there to sing and chant and stuff. And there was a big advertising sign over that section. And we used to get, I think, like 10 grand a year or something for it. And 2 years ago, kind of made the decision to get an artist, a Brazilian artist, and it has a big like anti-racism message on it now. And we kind of did that on purpose. And the thinking is that all these young kids go there, and maybe before they even have the idea around, say, racism or homophobia or any of these type of things, that they're going there and they all love pictures of and videos to go on TikTok and Instagram. You're talking about like the internet. They love getting videos in there because there's flares and there's smoke and all this stuff. And above them is this massive anti-racism message. And that's in all the videos. So it's nearly like it's happening, you know, subconsciously nearly. So you're bringing, and that's the real power, I think, of a football club, that people get emotionally attached to a club for their whole life. If you come in really young and the club is standing for progressive policies and progressive action, then it sort of happens without them even realising it, you know? And they might not be get that message at home or whatever. So we constantly push out really good progressive messages, whether that's around Palestine, homelessness. We do work with so many different organisations, whether that's work in prisons, and just bring this level of awareness to young people who are engaging in sport, but through sport can get other doors opened. I know it's maybe not directly related, but I don't get back to people on Twitter if that's, yeah.
Okay, maybe on that very positive and defiant message, we'll leave this session at that. Thanks to Tommy, Karina, Dan and Des, and we'll take a break now before we set up the next session.
Well done, man.
Nice to meet you.
That's great stuff.
Thanks to you both. I'm a former St. Joseph's and